Welcome to I Still Call It a Lariat. We are a pro wrestling podcast. I am joined by two co-hosts today. This is the first time in a while. First off, I'm going to introduce you to the Fezzik to my Wesley. We got Hound over here. And of course, as always, my tag team partner, though he is actually the Flair to my Steamboat, and that is Mr. Showtime, Michael Wright. I, of course, am Steve Zapf, the host. We have a lot of wrestling news for all of you who have not checked it out yet. You should definitely go listen to our all-out review, the preview, all of that stuff. Check us out. See if you like our picks. If you disagree with what we said, let us know that stuff as well. As always, all of our information is down in the description below. First things first, let's talk about our nonprofit organization that's Tap Cancer Out. Beneficiaries for it will be Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabella Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, CureCervicalCancer.org, First Descents, and Tom Coughlin's J-Fund.
J-Fund.
Guys, this is the first time we've had an actual weekly show that all three of us are on, so I'm kind of excited about that. We got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, and I'm looking to just let's get into some wrestling talk.
Man, you're all business today. You didn't even ask us how we were doing. Hound, how you doing, bud? Man, oh man.
We all know
No. Sometimes just story time, Steve. Michael, how are you doing?
Oh, you know me, Hound. I'm living the dream. Steven.
Being handsome, living the dream. So
how dare you?
I mean, he is the more handsome host out of all of us.
I do what I can. It's all the salt and pepper. And all my clothes just seem to match it.
Of your 4 shirts that you own?
It's the ones I wear on the show. I'm convinced that everyone thinks I'm a cartoon character because I wear the same 3 T-shirts over and over again.
Do.
Just in my closet. It's epic. It's a gray T-shirt, gray and black T-shirts next to each other.
It's amazing. That's perfect. All right, guys, let's get into wrestling news around the world. First things first. There's a bit of confusion on whether or not Kiana James has been released. Now, she just made her main roster debut not that long ago, and it looked like they were kind of pushing her a bit. And then she went away. They took her off the internal roster. This seems like it's almost, if she is released, this definitely seems like a turning point in the TKO WWE partnership, in the sense that we're not going to see any more "we wish you your best in your future endeavors" type situations. I think they're going to start doing a little bit more quietly.
Yeah, you know what, Steven? I was doing some research after I saw this on the Sheiks. I hadn't actually heard this yet. But it looks like she might have a severe leg injury that might keep her out for up to 9 months, which is interesting. Something else kind of lasts 9 months as well. So severe leg injury, parasite, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, that's why your legs, right?
Well, we'll leave anatomy class for the experts. So it might be a leg injury that'll keep her sidelined for a while. So they kind of took her off the roster page. That's just what my quick Google searching had brought up. A couple little news outlets were pointing to that direction. So that could be the reason for her shifting around, but really no news whatsoever about what it actually was. There should have been some sort of statement from WWE.
Exactly. None whatsoever. And this is also, so this is the second release in the last 2 weeks. If it is a release, I'm just saying. I'm not saying it is a release, but there was no statement about Odyssey Jones either. And even when it's been for bad reasons in the past, they've kind of always done the future endeavors thing, which also causes me to say I think they might be going to a more quieter approach to it, where they kind of don't want the focus on them releasing the people.
I think based on the information on the table, there's a big difference between the Odyssey Jones release and this one because you can't go out and make a statement condemning someone for actions that you don't know if they were true or not. So like kind of doing that one a little bit more quietly and below the radar actually makes a little bit more sense. If Kiana's hurt, just tell her she's hurt. Like, hey, I know you guys were all excited about her. We brought her up. We drafted her. It was fun. She's out for 9 months because she hurt her leg. She broke her femur, or whatever it is that she did.
Alan, any thoughts on this one, or?
I very much agree with Showtime here. There is a big difference between somebody being released for, let's just call it bad behavior, versus somebody who, creative had nothing for. Maybe, and I took a look a little bit earlier too, and yeah, everything does seem to be pointing to a potential injury where she is banged up, if you will. So it's either a leg injury or something else. But either way, there. I wish Miss Kiana James a speedy recovery, or
a 9-month recovery.
Yes, or a joyous occasion.
I like your pun here. So, other big news coming out of the wrestling world. Apparently, Kevin Nash and Logan Paul are not seeing eye to eye these days.
Kevin Nash is 7 feet tall.
This kind of stems off of, I believe it was a week or two ago, Hulk Hogan was on Logan Paul's podcast, Impulsive. And he said a bunch of stuff. Hogan himself said some stuff that probably shouldn't have been said, which we won't get too far into that. But this is also based on Logan Paul not knowing the difference between what a work and a shoot is. And you work in the business. So I do have the article pulled up here. I am going to read Nash's statements. I apologize for my language. I don't usually like to drop this many F-bombs in a single 2-sentence.
I would just skip them if you can.
All right. So according to Nash, he said on his podcast, Logan Paul, in reference to Logan Paul, he's not one of the boys. Where would he learn that stuff yet? Where is he going up and down the road talking our jargon? In the building, everybody's in their own effing motor coach. There's no effing interaction. There's no socialization. You don't become one of the boys just because you're effing around them. That guy, I'll use guy for that one. From what I've heard, he's making like $5 million for limited dates. And those other guys are out there making house shows. And then he ends it with F you, F you. I don't completely disagree with Nash on some of this. I think Logan should know a little bit more if he's with the level of deepness that he's been in the business. But then on Monday night, Logan Paul responded on a Twitter post, X, whatever you want to call it, and Paul admits that he wasn't as versed in wrestling as some of his WWE coworkers, being insinuating he was better than all of them anyway. He proceeded to call Nash one of the old guys who's bitter that I'm better at your job than you ever were, and that makes you pathetic, and closed the video by saying F you to Nash. I don't agree with the second part of it. I get it. He should, like I said, I think he should know. But this seems like it could be something where they're probably going to keep them away from each other at WWE events.
Is this a work or a shoot?
Logan Paul wouldn't know.
He wouldn't know, but he does now. But is the Hound? Is this a work or a shoot? This is a good game. Let's play a new game, folks. Work or shoot.
It's like shoots or ladders.
I think this very much started off as a shoot and is now turning into a work.
I can see that.
Also, at the same point, I agree with what Nash said there. Logan's not one of the boys. There is a big difference between being in a car with somebody who maybe you're working a program with over the course of a month and having to make town after town, sometimes 2 towns in one day, what have you. It's different. You bond there. You guys share actual deep moments together. People are there when, it's well known that guys who are involved in the wrestling industry, they miss important dates, they miss weddings, they miss funerals, they miss birthdays. And these people that you're making these towns with, and granted, it's not as bad as it used to be, but this is historically, these are people who, I'm sorry, but there's not many more things that bond you together than going through a rough time with and having somebody there for you, and knowing that you can trust each other, and on top of it, making money and making memories. And then, despite everything else that's going on, you got kids and fans and everything with suspension of disbelief coming up to you and saying how excited they were, and oh, I loved everything you pulled in that match, Showtime, and so glad you beat that evil Hound tonight. Whatever it was.
Yes, I went over. You see that? I went over.
It's about time.
But it's, I get that. At the same point, I'm kind of over the Logan Paul thing. Okay, yes, you're phenomenal, but it's kind of meh. And okay, cool. Nash has nothing to do with it anymore. Like, if you're going to get in it with somebody, get into it with a Cena who's going on his last year tour. Someone like that. Get into it with a Punk. You're going to get something out of it. What are you going to get out of that if you get Nash in a ring with Logan Paul? Nothing.
Agreed.
Quad.
Definitely. This reminds me. I'm gonna drop a name real quick for to show the opposite example of this. First of all, honestly, I don't know if I care. Logan Paul isn't a one of the boys. He doesn't want to be. I'm assuming he was brought in because he's a megastar, and it brings eyeballs to it. Lawrence Taylor wasn't one of the boys. They brought him in because he was a megastar. The opposite person here that I want to bring up is Andy Kaufman. So Andy Kaufman got involved in the business as being a megastar, who I don't know if was ever really one of the boys, because he did a lot of his stuff on the road and then showed up for limited engagements. But he was enamored with the business. Like, he had, there's stories around Kaufman where he had, after he passed, they found just a giant duffel bag of checks, because he didn't cash a single check for any of his matches, because he was just there to be part of the business because he loved it. And that's kind of the thing that Nash is saying. And I'm not saying that Logan Paul needs to act that way. That's not at all what I'm saying. That's just the opposite version of what I see Logan Paul as. But it sounds like Nash is also mad about other things, because it's not just the things he's saying, everyone's in their trailers or whatnot. He's kind of upset on how the whole business has kind of changed.
Evolved. Yeah.
Yeah. And because there isn't that many people who are traveling the road the same way they used to. You don't need to travel the road like you used to. More people fly to events. The pay is incredibly better than it used to be, so you don't have to just jump into your 57 Chevy and drive 4 or 5 hours tonight in order to get to an engagement, 8 hours tonight to go to your next show, and then get back on the road after eating a can of tuna and doing the thing. So it sounds
Not
like
that we've ever done this.
Sure. I mean, we're all what I like to call zennials. We're old enough to know how the Xers did it, and young enough to know how the millennials did it. And that's this is kind of where I guess I'm coming from here. Nash sounds like sour grapes. Logan Paul is just a troll. It's perfect. It's a perfect work. I'm going to go work. I do think that Logan Paul didn't know the difference at the time.
He did not know the difference. No,
I do not think he knew.
If you ever go back and watch the clip, it's with him and Hogan, and he goes, it's all a shoot, or he says it's not a shoot or something like that. He's like,
the business is a shoot.
Yeah, the business is a shoot. He goes, huh? He goes, I know what a work is. He's like, And like he kind of gives a look like I don't really know what this means, and I don't think he was faking that one.
And then he like tried to fake it, and then he was already caught because his buddy wouldn't let him get away with it. But I don't know if it started out as a work from Nash's side of things. It could have started out as a shoot from Nash, and then now they're turning it into, because Nash is still under a Legends deal, so
he's still under a Legends deal.
Somewhat nice. But the end of the day, I think this is now gone full work.
I could see this going full work, and especially since Kevin Nash has never been one to turn down a paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Definitely not.
Ever. But I'm actually a little excited to see where it goes, if it's going to be a work or a shoot. Let's see what happens.
Or shoot.
One other thing, Showtime. I was requested by someone who saw one of our social media posts where you're talking about the troll match of the month, and it was requested now that maybe we do that every month. We figure out a troll match of the month match.
It's just AEW, man. Like I'm convinced that AEW. I say it in the review, which didn't happen yet. That happens after this, right? In the review, that I'm convinced that All Out was almost a troll of Bad Blood. They're just trying to do over the top stuff before WWE does their stuff over the top for them, just to show that that's where the kids go. This is the adult place. But I'm in. I'm happy to keep
Troll of the Month match.
Troll of the Month, because it's going to include Jack Perry or Logan Paul. I'm assuming they're gonna be fighting for it.
What if they fight each other?
Oh wait, I have. Do we have? Oh, I can tell you the troll moment of the month from Raw when we get down to it. Oh man, it was beautiful. It's actually not even on the show doc.
I'm going to leave it to you then.
Yeah, it's good. It's real good.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
okay,
go ahead, just keep going.
We'll go that. So next up, we have TNA stuff. As always, this show has been kind of the champion of TNA.
Woo!
It is still probably the best wrestling program that's on right now. Quite often, we say that it has the best match of the week every week. They've announced a couple more matches for their Victory Road pay-per-view, which is happening on September 13th. As we are recording now, that would be this upcoming Friday. I'm always excited for TNA shows, just in general, especially bigger shows like this. They do them well enough where we get great wrestling, and I'm happy with great wrestling. But we already knew that Nick Nemeth and Moose were gonna go at it for the world title. This past week, we got the announcement that the ABC will defend in a return match against the System for the tag team titles. Malisha, which Alicia Edwards was actually injured at the last pay-per-view, so apparently she's doing better. She was actually carried out of the ring, but they're going to give Spitfire a rematch for the Knockouts tag team title. Zachary Wentz is facing Mike Bailey for the X Division title. Zachary Wentz just won it at Emergence. Mike Bailey was the former champion. He was the champion going in, so this is kind of the return match on that.
Before you move on, to go back to the Militia versus Spitfire. If Spitfire loses, they must disband as a team. It's a nice little stipulation.
That is a nice little stipulation. A spitulation, if you will.
I won't.
And last, but certainly not least, Josh Alexander is taking on our boy. Say his name and he appears. We believe in Joe Hendry. I'm actually excited about that match. I hope that this is the start of a major Joe Hendry push. Kind of Josh Alexander tends to be the guy that he's the gatekeeper guy for TNA right now. And if he can put on a good program with between Joe Hendry and Josh Alexander, I think that's going to kind of be the start of the push towards Joe Hendry getting the TNA world title. But that is our TNA news for right now. Anybody want to chime in with any of these matches? Anything you're super excited for?
Did you guys talk about? I know I wasn't here last week. Did you guys talk about Jordan Grace and her essentially signing with with TNA or WWE? I don't know if it was TNA.
We
Not
haven't
TNA,
gotten
NXT.
NXT. We haven't talked much about it just because it's not fully confirmed yet, and obviously she's still technically under contract with TNA currently. So I didn't want to jump in too much on it until we had a little bit more news about it.
Okay.
About that, it made me wonder. I'm wondering if this is going to be the start of where we're going to start seeing cross promotional champions, because they've done a pretty good job of saying, okay, your folks come in here and they lose to our NXT, your TNA folks come in here and lose to our NXT champions and vice versa. I wonder if that's the start of, okay, the NXT title just got defended on Impact. The Impact title got defended on NXT. I wonder if that, and I would like to see that lead to that, because I really hope NXT and TNA kind of stay sort of hand in glove with each other for a little while. I don't see how it could possibly not be helpful to both promotions. It's just more eyes on NXT, which is more eyes on WWE, and more exposure of the TNA folks to the WWE crowd. And even if you've got folks who are just WWE diehards, there will be bleed over, which is going to lead to higher ratings and everything else. So there's not a negative that can come out of this, provided egos don't get in the way. That's all.
To build on that as well, Hammerstone showed up on NXT tonight. Not to spoil anything.
Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. So we record this on Tuesday nights. So we haven't watched NXT yet, but I saw the note they showed up. So it's just another example of them showing up in this, like, it's not an invasion because it's not like TNA is trying to take over, but they have been showing up. I don't know exactly what happens in his match, but it was kind of a cool sight to see him kind of showing up there. As for Victory Road, I'm pretty excited about a lot of these matches. Obviously, I'm most excited about Joe Hendry and Josh Alexander. I think that could be a really good one, but I think the Zachary Wentz and Mike Bailey match is going to be a match of the night.
I could definitely see that. I think that although ABC versus the System could, I love good tag team wrestling, and TNA puts on good tag team wrestling.
They sure do. They definitely have the best tag team division, in my opinion. And this is in San Antonio, Texas. So at least I believe, not only do I believe in Joe Hendry, but I believe that the San Antonio, Texas TNA crowd will be way better than Albany.
You hate the Albany TNA crowd.
They should be ashamed of themselves. At least pretend like you're excited to see a wrestling promotion.
You're a bit new to the show. TNA's Albany crowd was terrible.
Now, I've seen Albany. Make it up. Albany in general. Great. Thumbs up, guys. I've seen them at WWE tapings and stuff like that. Good job. TNA Albany, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Okay. Well, now that we've triggered Showtime, let us move on to AEW news. So, mind you, these are all the shows that are leading into the go-home week for All Out. Dynamite this week started with Danny Garcia and an MJF segment. Essentially, it was a lot of back and forth. MJF brought up Danny Garcia's mom. Garcia loses his mind, goes and runs after him, and MJF hits him with, I want to say it was a champagne bottle. They said wine bottle at one point. I believe it's a champagne bottle.
Which is worse. And then you get this real serious moment from MJF where he talks about how he's reawoken this sleeping monster that's in him. It was very, very cool for what they've been doing. I have liked this feud kind of going through.
I think Daniel Garcia is stepping up into what they want him to do currently. I have said this whole time that if he doesn't get over with this MJF stuff, though, he's not going to be able to get over, and I think he's doing a great job of getting over currently. Next up, we have Kyle Fletcher, the Don Callis' number one young boy, Will Ospreay's best friend, and he challenged Kazuchika Okada for the Continental title.
And he won.
He did not. But as per usual, for the 25 years old, had a great showing. He looks better every time I see him. I really like Kyle Fletcher, and for being a young guy, he has that one thing that we always say that you can't teach. He has size. 6'4", 6'5". He's a lean 6'4", 6'5", so he's sitting in that like 240 range. But he is, and if you look every week, his body looks a little bit better too. He's starting to get more definition. He looks a little bit more like an athlete. If we could just get him to get rid of that dodgy haircut, it'd be better.
I think Don Callis makes you have that haircut.
Maybe
it's part of the contract.
Same thing like Will Ospreay having his Sean Hunter hair.
Yep, see, it's in the contract.
I will say this was probably one of the best outings for Okada that I've seen since he's been in AEW. I know Hound, you constantly gripe that we don't get New Japan Okada as far as in-ring product, though you love heel Okada currently.
Yeah, I do love the character of heel Okada, and it's literally him flipping off the crowd, and it's so goofy and silly, and usually that doesn't get me, but it's in a weird way it reminds me a little of Sami Zayn, and it's like silliness kind of, and I love Sami Zayn, and I think that might be why, and I know it may not be like looking at like, that's like not an apples to apples comparison. Can't tell you why it reminds me of him, but it does. Yeah, I think, and the more I think about this, I think Okada needs like a 45-minute match with somebody who can go 45 minutes to make it work, and that's not what's happening over here. I'm sorry, but every week on Dynamite and Rampage and all the other shows, it's not Wrestle Kingdom. There's not time for that. And if you need that much time, like if you're like a diesel engine needing that long to warm up, you're probably not cut out for the American style, even though I love the character.
And truthfully, the show that they probably could have done that on was Wembley, and they didn't do it with him. Yeah. Let's see. Next up, we get Moxley coming out with his new partner, sidekick, whatever you want to call her, Marina Shafir. Again, I'm sticking with the idea. Like, I can't see that Moxley sat there and pitched this idea where, you know what I really need in my life? Marina Shafir. He is calling out Darby Allin. I'm actually making this call right now. Not to say anything about what our review is or what anyone has seen about All Out. Moxley is going to take Darby Allin's title shot from him.
Are we confirmed that he still has that title shot?
He still has that title shot at Grand Slam. Because Grand Slam hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
That happens at the end of this month. I believe it happens the end of September. It's like September 26th or something like that.
I think you're right.
So Moxley is calling him out. He kind of keeps doing, as Hound pointed out last week, the romper stomper gimmick. I think my problem with this is not only is he doing something that's kind of just, it's not great, but he's stealing something that's not great.
It's a cool idea, but it's a niche reference. Like it'd be one thing if it was, it's inspired by this and a character that's all its own, and then as somebody deep dives that character and what it's become, you find out there's that, and then you end up going and watching this older film. That would be okay, but I don't want to say it's a 1-to-1, but it's pretty close.
And just in general, I'm not usually a huge Moxley fan in general.
Yeah.
His stuff is, it's too hardcore for my taste. It's a lot of blood, a lot of brawling out on the floor. And like even AEW fans are starting to say how Moxley matches are all exactly the same. Which that's not.
Are you calling Moxley a Jamoke right now? Is that the move?
No, because he still fights out on the floor.
Sure.
He doesn't just lay there.
Well, I feel like there's two different things. Jamoke and jamoking are two different.
Well, wouldn't the jamoke be the person that is lying there doing the act of jamoking?
Not necessarily.
I think we need to take a week and reconvene on the difference between a jamoke and jamoking.
Originally, the term was used
as a noun,
like as a replacement for jabroni.
I don't think one can be jamoking without being a jamoke in that moment. I gotta go, Steve here.
But what's the right way to say it? It's all jamokes. Not all jamokes are jamoking. Everyone jamoking is a jamoke. Not all jamokes are jamoking.
Or could it be the other way, where all jamokes are always jamoking, but you can be jamoking without being a jamoke?
Nope. The minute you're laying around the ring, you're jamoking, and you're a jamoke.
Hound, welcome to the show.
That just hurt behind my left eye.
This is the one legacy from Scarps. So we're keeping it strong.
We are keeping it strong. It is the one term that we keep weekly.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I disagree. I don't think one can be in the act of jamoking without being a jamoke, but I do see where you're getting. But not all jamokes are always jamoking.
Yeah, they're not always laying around the ring. You can still be a jamoke.
At that point though, I don't think it's a fair comparison. I think we need a different.
Could
term.
Be a jamoke. No,
I think what we need. We need a 12-man ladder match to see some jamoking.
You don't need that many. You can see a 4-man continental title match.
That's the facts. That's called foreshadowing.
What?
All right. Next up, we have Mariah May has her first AEW Women's World Title defense. Not on a pay-per-view because, God forbid, they take any steam away from the TBS title and one of the other Trust Fund babies. Instead, she takes on Nyla Rose, one of the, I believe she was the second AEW Women's World Champion ever.
Riho and then
I believe it was Riho, which you could still say Nyla Rose was technically the first one because Riho is like 3 pounds. She doesn't even count like she was there.
She is smaller than Sasha Banks.
She's actually smaller than Sasha Banks. Or, I'm sorry, Mercedes.
She could hit her with the finish.
She could hit her with the finish. Mariah May came out with the win on this one. This is a good first win for her because Nyla Rose is kind of a monster. She's really the original version of AEW, or AEW's original version of Nia Jax. So you could definitely, this kind of shows her toughness, and she won it clean. She laid into her with a couple knee strikes and stuff like that, and really took and hit her with Tony Storm's finisher, that Storm Zero. So, and Nyla Rose is not a small lady. So that's a little impressive.
Using Tony Storm's finisher, does that make her the troll of the week?
Could be, especially since
there's something worse. There's
definitely something worse, and I know where we're going with this. That's the best part is once you said it, I know what we're talking about.
It's pretty trolly.
We get a segment involving Mercedes Moné about the about the upcoming pay-per-view, and Christopher Daniels and Hikaru Shida come on the screen on the Tron, and Daniels bans Camille from ringside during the pay-per-view, thus making it a fair contest. I feel like this was a little soon to be banning Camille from ringside for one of these matches, since she's only been with Mercedes for like a month. She's only had one real match with her at ringside, really, or at least one title defense with her at ringside. I feel like this was a little early to do this, and it should have been maybe on a bigger match. No offense to Hikaru Shida.
Well, I think that's precisely why he did it. I think they were trying to make this have the big match feel, with Mariah May not defending the actual women's top prize on that pay-per-view. So I see, it's like one of those, I see what you're going for. It's not landing well, but props, I guess, for trying to make it look like it was more important than it was.
But it wasn't. It's okay. I still love Christopher Daniels. Thank you for talking to us for like 3 hours at the show no one saw.
Lovely man.
Love that man. Let's see. Moving on from Dynamite, we get the Blackpool Combat Club calling out the Young Bucks for the tag team titles at the All Out pay-per-view. Just before last week, we talked about how there was no tag team matches on this show, and we really needed one. The Bucks probably did need to be on there. Otherwise, how are they going to be front and center on a pay-per-view if they're not actually front and center on a pay-per-view? I'm going to jump a little bit here. Briscoe, Takeshita, and Orange Cassidy all qualify for the Continental title match. Again, 4-way match. I smell a Jamoke. I smell
Jamokin.
All the Jamokin. It kind of sounds like a coffee flavor. Like the best part of waking up is Jamokin in your cup.
You might be onto something there. But those are the right three to qualify for this.
Those were absolutely the right three out of the matches.
It's one of the takeaways from it is, because I want to say it's called the conglomeration.
Yes.
Where so you could potentially do something where Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy don't like each other, but they're just both so goofy that I don't think that would land. But at the same point, you can start heading towards what everybody wants to see, which is Takeshita and Okada one-on-one.
Let's just do it. Let's just get that match. I wouldn't be surprised.
You won't do it.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get Takeshita and Okada at Grand Slam.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we get the Okada we're looking for. Because even though they come from different promotions in Japan, the style of the in-ring style for DDT and or New Japan wasn't too terribly different. I mean, it was all Japanese strong style to a point. So I think this will be the first, because of course everybody's waiting for Kenny Omega to heal up and him and Okada to go at it again, which they're going to have to give them 45 to an hour to do. So Kenny can hit 912 knees and Okada can hit 479 Rainmakers.
And Meltzer can give it 300 stars.
I hope he does.
Yeah, me too. Exactly 300.
If you're going to do it, own it. Go for it.
Yeah, just do it.
Give it one Milky Way.
This is what I call a galaxy. I'm going to give you a galaxy on this one. It's actually 2 billion stars. Nailed it.
Next time I'm going the full universe. Just everything.
That's too much, Steven. Come on, get real. Bring it in.
No one can hit that. And in a turn of events where, once again, I don't know who the babyface is, Hangman Adam Page burns Swerve's childhood house down.
That seems like a heel move.
It does seem like a heel move, but he did it to a guy who broke into his house and cut a promo on his child.
That was months ago.
Everything's different now.
It's completely different.
It's totally different. He's a new man. It's not like he was a heel, I don't know, last week.
Nah, it's completely different. He beat
Was that even Swerve?
The once Danielson beat him, he was allowed to be a face again. So
that's okay. I see what happens here. I don't understand whatsoever. Actually, can someone? Oh, Jesus Christ!
The two of them have a good thing going.
They do have a good thing.
It's a believable feud, and I don't think it needs a definable face and heel. This is just two dudes who are off the deep end and are willing to do some horrible shit to the other's body. Yeah. And they just might
do stuff. And they just might.
It might even be borderline illegal.
Yeah, so we've already, as you guys know, we already saw All Out at this point in time. We have a review that'll probably come in after this show. We will say there's some graphic stuff that happens in All Out. And just kind of a disclaimer, particularly if you're watching with children, the last two matches, be careful. We don't condone some of the actions. You'll get that in our in our review, as I try hard not to be awkward and fail miserably. Some serious stuff that happens in it, and we just want you guys all to be prepared for it. Maybe we're over revving a little bit, but particularly when it comes to children that could possibly be watching with you, I don't think you'd ever be too safe.
I completely agree. I think you should. I don't know. I don't think this pay-per-view was made for kids.
Nope.
I would definitely keep them away from. If you're going to show them anything, show them the Ospreay match. That's fine.
Yeah, show them the superhero moments. That's
show them that. You could even show them the 4-way match on that, but I would not. Mm-hmm. I would definitely monitor what matches you've got your kids watching on this.
Mm-hmm.
That pay-per-view wasn't even for adults. It was. Never mind. Enough.
And leave it for the review. We definitely get into it enough there.
We get into it on the review. So next up, we go to the big promotion, Friday Night SmackDown. This is the last SmackDown that will be on Fox. This is ending their 12-year run on Fox. Cody opens up the show. It leads to a face-off between him and Solo, and we get Nick Aldis coming out. First of all, they teased a little bit of stuff with Jacob on this, which I absolutely love that. But this leads to what the first main event on SmackDown on USA will be, which is going to be a WWE Championship match in a steel cage.
I am not a Solo Sikoa fan. Look, the guy in the ring, he does what he does, and it fits what he does. But I guess I've heard kids call it aura. Solo has negative aura, and I'm really, really worried that they're going to pull the title from Cody, which, again, I still am a big proponent of Cody losing it to Randy Orton. I don't think it needs to get to The Rock. I don't think The Rock needs to be near that title.
The Rock.
But
stop. The Rock can't stop The Rock.
Yeah. But it's the only way Rock gets near that title is if we have the whole Joe Hendry and number 31 moment happen. That's the only way I want it to happen.
It's the best angle I've ever come up with, ever.
But I'm scared that they're gonna have Cody drop this to Solo, and I don't want the title involved with the bloodline for a while. Like, we just did that for a long time, and we had Roman Reigns come out the other side of it in the tier of The Undertaker, where he doesn't need the title. He's bigger than the title. Now, we don't need to... Yeah, but Solo can do it too. I don't think he can. I think we start getting to... We're going to have to get to where Jacob and Roman work a program together, and Roman should do the right thing, and Jacob should come out the other side of that as the winner. Granted, we're going off on a tangent here, but that's my fear about this, is they're going to do this, and I'm going to go, well, that's really stupid, and I hate it.
I don't know. They haven't done too many really stupid things in this.
This is an AEW.
They don't have Joe
as
Hendry
you
as
can
the world
tell,
champion.
Showtime
It's all
is still a
stupid.
little bitter from the review episode.
Listen, I don't know. All Out was the proper title. That's all I'm going to say, because I might be all out.
All out. Back to SmackDown. We get Tiffany versus Bayley, which all this match does is lead to the eventual Nia Tiffany match. I am going to keep up with what I really believe is going to happen, and that's that Nia is actually going to double cross Tiffany.
You want to
In the
know
long
what I've heard from the rumor mill is that one Charlotte Flair might be on her way back, and she may find herself in the world of SmackDown with these ladies. And I think adding her to this group would be perfect. And potentially she could be the one that dethrones Nia, allowing Tiffy time to
go
happen.
after.
Yeah. Because Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton match, I'd pay to see that.
I would absolutely pay to see that. I will say this now. What if they do that? They have Charlotte come out and dethrone Nia, and Nia blames Tiffany, and we get a Tiffany-Nia program for a little bit.
That's cool as well. I think we need that. I think the two of them, they're friends. I love a good, we're only friends so we can be enemies later kind of thing.
And I think we need to get them separated from each other a little bit for Tiffany to kind of blossom a little bit more.
I think Charlotte Flair is the right learning tree for Tiffany Stratton to sit on.
Agreed.
I completely think that.
I don't think Nia needs a long title run. I'm impressed with everything she's done, but again, I always get very worried for the amount of people who have been hurt by her. It has been nice to see how it looks like that hasn't been happening. But, I mean, when you damn near caved in Becky Lynch's face with a punch, which, it did a world of good for Becky Lynch because of that iconic shot, but still, it wasn't just that. There were so many people, and I remember when she did the match in Saudi Arabia, the finish, who was that, Lyra Valkyria she was with? The finish with that Annihilator scared me.
She crushed her.
Yeah, and it's one of those where, granted, Nia's taken some size off. She's still a big lady.
It crushed her so much that it dropped her down the card.
It absolutely did.
They're caught in the mid-card vortex.
I will say
you guys are dancing an awful lot around Jericho right now. I'm just saying. Your words. Sounds like you want to talk about Jericho.
I don't ever.
Say his name and he will appear.
Everywhere. Everywhere, always. I will say this.
I did say learning tree. I'm sorry.
And Vortex.
And Vortex.
That's Jericho. Oh, it is
Jericho's
the
Jericho
vortex of doom.
Oh
no!
Just saying, you're asking. Don't say Beetlejuice 3 times, bud.
Stop it.
Break the walls down. He's coming back.
I'm looking forward to. I would love to see Tiffany versus Charlotte, though. That would be really good, and I think Tiffany versus Charlotte, like you said, that would be a great learning moment for her. And I also think that could lead, once we get past whatever's going on with Jade and Bianca, if we're eventually going to have them fight or not have them fight or whatever we're doing. I have been saying since the beginning, I really want to see Tiffany versus Bianca. I really want that match. I think you get a lot of people with the same kind of skill set, and I think that's one of those where the styles could make the match really good. Talk about what we kind of didn't want, and that's, it looks like they're building Andrade and Carmelo Hayes to go after the U.S. title at the same time. All those times that I said, like, we needed something big for LA Knight to prove that he's the champion we need, it does not look like that's what they're doing.
I believe they'll get there. They didn't do a Priest, but I don't see them botching this one as well. Maybe they will, but
so
I
I'm
think
not
that
saying that he's not
something.
he's not going to be a dominant champion. I just don't, and I like Andrade and I like Carmelo, but I don't think Andrade and Carmelo and Legado, all the guys from Legado El Fantasma are the answer to making him look like he's a viable world champion, possibly. And the whole point of this should be to try to make LA Knight look like a viable world champion at this point.
I think we're looking a little bit too far into this right now when it comes to this in particular. There's like a famous saying that I've heard, maybe not famous, but something I've heard be pretty popularized because I do enjoy playing some video games with friends. And sometimes it's just because video game is why a thing happened. I think this is just because I don't think there's anything deeper to it. I think you've put two guys in there who can go well together, and you can have LA Knight come out technically going over on both of them while allowing them to showcase what they can do with each other and with LA Knight. I don't see this as anything other than that. It's not somebody being fed to him, and it doesn't need to be, well, okay, well, this title defense didn't make him look like the megastar. Well, not everyone does. Just needs to get get the rounds in, if you will. So I think that's all this is serving to be at this point.
That's fair. That's fair. I appreciate that. That is a very well thought out point, Hound.
I can think good once in a blue moon.
Every so often we get the nuggets. We ended SmackDown with an 8-man tag match. The Street Profits and DIY versus the Bloodline. So essentially the Street Profits and DIY versus Jacob Fatu.
He terrifies me.
He's a scary dude. And
with the grill.
Oh man. I think, and I've heard he's so committed to his stuff. Like they said something that during one of the matches or something with Solo in it, and he was supposed to be out there, and he just stood there doing like in the prayer position, not breaking for like 15-20 minutes or something like that. Like that's how into, until like he was supposed to do whatever he was supposed to do.
That right there shows you it's little. It makes me think of Jake the Snake, where Jake the Snake, there was not a thing that didn't mean something. He turned his head this way because it meant something. He flipped his hair because it meant something. Everything. And I think Jacob has that. And because he's committing that hard, and he is, I mean, for crying out loud, look at how much weight he's lost. The dude's looking incredible. I don't think we're far off from seeing a jacked Jacob Fatu. Not that he's not on the way there now, but it's like, I think we're a year away from being like, well, who the hell is this guy? But
well, and his look in general is so different.
It's so menacing. And so if he is holding a prayer pose and is staying where he's
intense.
And like, what is it? He kind of stands there almost like he's slack-jawed, but he's not, where his mouth's open. So it's almost like he's a caged animal at all times. I don't think there's another person who could pull that off right now the way he's doing it. And I think that I pray they don't drop the ball with him, because I think you have a once-in-a-lifetimer right here.
I think he has the potential. It's hard to say because of the run that like Roman just had, obviously. Yeah. But he has the potential to be, if not the best, he's in like the top 5 of the Samoans that have ever been around.
I'm in a fantasy book right here because this is the match I want to see in the future. Jacob Fatu versus Braun Breaker.
I've been saying that too. Like, it's going to be so good.
Not anytime soon. Like, let these guys be established. There's no reason for them to be in the ring right now.
I think if we see it in 2 years, that's a good time span. Like, if we were to see Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker to go after either the US or the IC title in the next 2 years at WrestleMania, I'm a happy camper.
I mean, they could both legitimately be world title champions.
I think you could push that to talking a main event in 2 to 3 years from now, like let's say 2027, because at that point, and the best part of all that would be is if whoever is going to be the challenger coming into that, it is their first attempt at a world title. Both those guys, they don't need to get near it right away. I kind of think you'll poison the well with them if you do that.
Well, and they're both young. That's the other thing. Like, Jacob's 32, I think is what I read, and we talk about Braun.
He's whatever he says he is. I believe.
Yeah, I buy it. And Braun is a legit 27.
Steiner math.
But yeah, 27 divided by 72.
But
times
his 27 plus Jacob's 32 means that he's got a 77 and 2/3 chance of winning.
That's exactly how that works.
My favorite promo of all time. It's so bad.
It's terrible. Thank you, Scott Steiner. So that's kind of it for SmackDown this week. It was good. A lot of it was just build up towards their debut over on USA, though. I am looking forward to that. I think it's going to be big because I think them getting off of network television is also going to free their hands a little bit on what they can do. But let's get over to a show that will be leaving USA soon, and that's Raw. First thing I want to talk about is Raw is going to only 2 hours at least until it goes to Netflix.
Woo!
I was going to say, I think everyone's kind of happy about this. I think 3 hours, it was too much with too little wrestling. We're getting the carriage before the horse type situation. It was just too much going on all the time.
I want them just to keep at least the same amount of wrestling. Don't go down. Like what you did in 3 hours, do it in 2 hours, and then just sprinkle in some other things. Because I'm afraid that we're going to just lose more matches.
All the wrestling.
There won't be any matches. It'll just be storylines.
I could see that. I'm hopeful though. I think 3 hours, especially with pay-per-views only going a little over 3 hours in general, it's hard to watch a 3 hour free program and a 3 hour plus pay-per-view program when you could have watched, they just showed you something for free.
Uh-huh.
Well, we also discussed, and I was mistaken. I thought there was one weekday a week where there wasn't pro wrestling on. No, it turns out Monday through Friday there is pro wrestling on TV. An hour less somewhere is not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not. It's 1 hour less of wrestling that it sounds bad, but that I don't need to absolutely watch for us to do this show. So the show actually opened with the White Six going over on American Made. I am not gonna lie, I'm kind of hoping that this is the end of this. I'm done with the Six in the end and Chad and all of this. I want both sides to move on to something else.
Where does the White Six go next?
That's the problem, is I don't know what they would move on to.
It's gonna be the Judgment Day.
You think?
Yep. Because they fit that model of you turned on your family, you turned on your friends. And then you can have some really cool things. You could build Finn up a bit more to be able to go toe to toe with Uncle Howdy. He already has that caliber of a wrestler. So, but at the same time, like he could easily be built up for that while the rest of the Judgment Day handles the rest of the Six.
I think if we're going to go that route, which I don't think is a bad idea at all, I don't think that we should see the Wyatt Six in person until we kind of put this Terror Twins and Jey Uso thing with the Judgment Day to bed.
Fact.
And to me, with you suggesting that, it's like a portent that we're closer to the end, which is, like I've been saying, the big crescendo of Rhea hitting the Riptide on Dom. If we're going to do that and you want to leave a breadcrumb or two, they are great at making a cryptic vignette where you're like, well, who the hell are you talking about? Where it could be one of 7 people. Okay, do that. And as we get a little bit closer, and even let them get 2 weeks out from, we finished off with this whole Terror Twins and Jey Uso and these folks, the Judgment Day. Let them get a couple weeks out and then have the messages kind of ramping up slowly. Have the Wyatt Six in dark matches. People will enjoy that. Then you can have them with whoever because it doesn't matter. And you can still kind of have their presence there. And I think their presence through the vignettes is a little bit more impactful than in person in a weird way.
I think so as well. I think some of their stuff in the vignettes and in like the VHS tapes and stuff like that, it keeps the creepy aspect of it, which is what they really kind of need to keep going. But again, how long does this stay a babyface stable? And I mean, realistically, I get it. I like that they're doing. I like that they get to pay this tribute to Bray and everything about Bray. It's very sad, and I love that they get to do this. But the fact of the matter is I think that there might be a shelf life on this.
I don't think that this is a gimmick that should go long. I don't think we should see the Wyatt 6 for 5 years. I think this is an 18-month thing. And then kind of, if you want to then future endeavors some folks, okay, so be it. It doesn't change the fact that this is the moment that these folks are in. And I kind of wonder if Triple H is like, okay, I'm kind of giving you this blank canvas here to a point. I'm going to give you X amount of opportunities to paint. Paint me something that's going to make me want to keep you here. And give you something to do, even if it's bringing like a Dexter Lumis back down and a Joe Gacy back down to NXT when this is all said and done. I could see Rowan hanging it up after this. You know, he's getting a little bit long in the tooth. I would love to see this somehow lead back to there being Bo Leavers. I would love, I would love that, but I don't think that'll happen. But it's 18 months of this and have them halfway through become the whole evil thing or whatever you want to call it, and have them go heel.
Also, like you said, 18 months. A lot can happen in 18 months. We could be saying 18 months now, and in 6 months, we could be like, man, I hope this never, ever ends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where they completely change everything. They pivot exactly how they should be. They just make all the right steps, and we're going, okay, well, no, they can do this forever.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's the thing is I love the idea of the 18 months. And again, let's see where it goes. It could be something where we completely change our mind in 6 because we're wrestling fans and we're fickle.
In Wyatt 6?
Yes.
Wyatt 6.
Next thing we get is the Judgment Day managed to set an ambush on the Terror Twins and pretty much just leave them both laying. The majority of it was Liv beating both of them with a crutch. And this also, I don't think we've gotten the full confirmation yet. I could be wrong, but do we have Rhea versus Liv at Bad Blood yet?
I believe we do.
I think we might, but we definitely got confirmation last night that we get Finn Balor versus Damian Priest at Bad Blood.
Yeah, I think they really need to do something where they build up Finn. If you want the Judgment Day to stay a thing and be a legitimate threat, Finn has to win somewhere. And I don't necessarily think it's going to be against Damian.
I don't think it is either, although I wouldn't mind seeing... I could see him winning. I could also see him just not losing. Maybe something happens and then they leave him laying. Again, a no contest, a disqualification, something like that, where this match just doesn't end.
Yeah, I can see that, but they just got to do something with them. They're a job squad right now. And it's hard to take them serious as any kind of threat. I think Rhea and Damian are a bit overpowered for them, and it really drops them down the card. I've been begging to see Dominic win some matches, and he does on this show, doesn't he?
He beats Dragon Lee on the show.
But like I want to see him win some matches, even if it does come to with someone interfering in the match.
Our next match that we have, or our next segment, is we get Jade and Bianca retain their tag team titles over the Unholy Union. That wasn't real hard to call. Just only reason why I'm even mentioning it. It's not super news on this show, but fact of the matter is, it was for the women's tag team titles.
It was. They don't know what to do with.
That just means that they're tag team titles.
Can I say a funny?
I'm always up.
Yeah, it wasn't hard to call, was it? Unless it was a PLE, Steve.
Shut up. Shut up.
Did it cool down over there, Steve? Because I think Hound's throwing some shade.
I don't know. I'm feeling burnt.
It might
You
be.
need to go get some.
Apply some ointment to that burn.
I need some aloe. This leads to the continuing saga of Sammy challenging Gunther. Showtime, is this where we bring up?
Maybe. So, what my favorite part was that we got to see Bret Hart in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I gotta say, Troll of the Weeks, this is perfect because there's plenty of times where people, I feel like, have told Bret Hart that he was their second favorite wrestler. And obviously, the first favorite wrestler always happens to be Shawn Michaels, but not Gunther's. Gunther's first favorite wrestler is Bill Goldberg. What a troll moment! To tell the cojones to tell Bret Hart that my favorite wrestler is Goldberg is just freaking classic.
I'm actually surprised that we're not hearing Bret Hart still complain about it.
He is. We just can't hear him.
We just can't hear him. He's still recording on his own podcast right now.
Yeah, right now.
And he's been going for like 36 hours.
It's too funny. Like him saying that, like that really. He gets it. Gunther gets it.
He really is the perfect wrestler.
And you know what? We're obviously going to get him and Sammy, and it's going to be a great match again.
I still say Gunther needs to hold that belt until at least Mania. And honestly, he might need to hold it until the Mania after.
I think right now, Gunther's kind of journey is surrounding the fact that he has to tie up some loose ends. He had to tie up the loose ends from King of the Ring by beating Randy Orton. He has to tie up some loose ends by beating Sammy because he's the last person to put him down. And then I think he's going to have to tie up some loose ends with Damian Priest because he didn't really win that clean. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw them go at it again.
Get one more in.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Great match. God, Damian Priest is so much better than I ever gave him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Showtime and I said this too. His match with him and Gunther, I think that was the best versions of both of them.
It really was.
Like, I love Gunther, and I think that was still the most entertaining version of Gunther that I'd seen in the entirety of the time.
They just handled Damian Priest's title run poorly. It really did him no favors.
I mean, he really was just a transitional champion.
Mm-hmm. He was.
Unfortunately, I can't think of a person outside of Gunther at the moment who's ever ascended into that main event title and been a multi-champion who didn't have to play the role of transitional champion at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So, just kind of one of those that, sucks to be in that moment, but it is what it is kind of thing.
I also think Gunther could be the guy that we finally start looking at that world title like it's a world title.
And that's precisely why I say
but you could have done that. You could have done that with Damian Priest.
I think so too. They just didn't. But moving on, we get the real A storyline, or at least a feud on Raw. And we get Adam Pearce and Drew McIntyre in the ring, and Adam Pearce says that he is done with everything between the two of them, and that it will be done after Bad Blood when they have Hell in a Cell. This seems like the
blow-off.
I think this is the blow-off.
It's gotta be.
I think once you get to this point, this is match number 3. They've had a special guest referee. They've had a strap. They're going to have a cell. Do I think they can keep going with it? Like, yeah, but do you I also think that we need to start mixing Rollins back into this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think once Bad Blood is done, we'll probably see whoever wins or whoever loses, both of them probably take a week or two away and then have them come back out. Probably have probably have Rollins come out to whoever he's gonna go after first. And like I said, I think the whole thing with Drew and Punk and Rollins is they each need to deal with their issues with each other, but with each other. Like, we don't need this to be a three-way match.
Agreed.
We need Drew and Rollins to deal with their stuff. We need Drew and Punk to deal with their stuff, and we need Punk and Rollins to deal with their stuff. All kind of separately.
2 early predictions. Who goes over? Who wins the series?
The heel.
That's not an answer.
Punk.
Hound?
I agree with Punk, but I have lost all interest in this storyline when Drew broke the bracelet.
The bracelet was really important. It really held the story together.
No.
I think what I have to decide is what happens next, because I could see Punk losing this and still having the heat to go with like a clinic with Rollins, where I feel like it's hard for Drew, because I think that's where Punk goes next, Punk versus Rollins. It's hard for Drew to go challenge Gunther after this, after losing. So, like, what do you do? Does then Drew just float around and like fight Sheamus for a little bit? It's a hard start.
He might be fighting with Damian Priest, because Priest did cash in on him, and I could see those two battling to try to get to Gunther.
Sure, but then you still have Punk lingering, have beaten Drew. So that's my only thought there.
I do think that we roll Punk into Rollins after this. Kind of no matter what. I don't think it's going to be Drew and Rollins. I'm going to throw another name out there, because a lot of people have been asking if he's ever going to wrestle again. And especially the way they've been doing this. Give him he looks like he's still in great shape. Let's give him Barrett.
I can see that. Does Brock Lesnar come back?
I could see something like that too. The only reason why I say Barrett is it seems like a lot of this is Wade getting in his face and being like, I'm your friend. I'm trying to help you and you're not taking my advice. And I could see Drew being like, you're not trying to help me. You're just trying to stop me from doing what I want to do.
I do what I want. And let's face it, as far as Drew fighting his friends, we've kind of seen enough of him and Sheamus for a little bit. Agreed. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what he does if he doesn't go after the world title after this.
I mean, I'm excited to see where they go. And again, I'm excited to see where they go with this. Like we said, it's an early prediction. Who knows?
He joins the Judgment Day.
I want to change my prediction, because Drew McIntyre wins this because CM Punk's going to eliminate him in the Royal Rumble. And that's going to be the big everything gets back
payoff.
to there, where even though Drew won that whole thing, CM Punk stopped his world title dream one more time.
Right before Joe Hendry eliminates CM Punk.
And then The Rock
eliminates Joe Hendry.
Say his name and...
He's a big doofy Scottish idiot, and I love him.
I love him so much. All right, and the final thing we've got for Raw this week and for wrestling in general, Jey Uso officially becomes the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental title. I hate to say this because I know how over Uso is, but this is the last thing I wanted. It's not so much Uso as Uso.
I have to disagree a little bit. You haven't seen Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker. I think this would be a fun match.
But he's going to lose.
End up enjoying it.
Yeah,
that's my issue with it. Is he's going to lose.
They've missed the boat on this main event Jey Uso thing.
Yeah,
yes.
Like you can't be main event if you never main event and you never win a main event.
Facts.
You are mid card Jey Uso.
He's also participated, Jey Uso.
Yes. You are participation trophy Jey Uso.
If we go to a live show, we should give him a ribbon.
Says
one?
thanks for coming.
A blue one from the county fair. Like with a "you did it."
You did it. World's
Good
best
job,
cup of
bud.
coffee.
Good job, buddy.
Just one with a thumbs up.
But a lot of the stuff this week, there wasn't a whole lot going on this week. I think this was a little bit of a lull everywhere because they were setting some stuff up. Again, they were setting up SmackDown to debut on USA next week. Raw seemed like it was kind of the ending of certain things and trying to get a start going with other things. And AEW, well, it's been AEW.
Check out All Out review.
I think there are some stuff for those of you who are interested in this type of thing. We are going to probably start doing some new formatting for the show. We are talking about doing an indie specific show. We're probably going to start splitting up the show a little bit more in the next couple of weeks where you guys are going to get more content and kind of more in-depth look on wrestling just in general, the way we're going to do it. And as always, we'll always have our bonus content. We have some interviews coming up that we have just been nailing down. I don't want to give too much information until we actually have them all cemented. But as always, please follow us on all of our social media. Fans, Legion, we love the fact that you came out. Hound, we love the fact that you're here now.
Facts.
Hound, what you got to say to the Legion before we leave?
Folks, thank you so much for giving us your most precious resource, your time. We hope this is entertaining, informative, and I hope we make your day just a little bit better. Or you get really angry at one of us and want to write in the comments and be like, "You're completely wrong about this." I'd love to see that too. Either
He's
way,
talking about Steve.
Usually me.
I mean, don't get mad at me. I'm too lovable. And you can't get mad at Showtime. He's too cute.
I'm always right. Thank you all. We really appreciate you coming out and spending time with us. As again, the social handles in the back. And I think, thanks for joining us, and hopefully you'll be back next time. We'll see you next time, or we'll see you another time.
And always, guys, tuck your chin when you bump.